Today we're finally looking at Perylene Green by Schmincke. What's up, Liron here. Thank you for joining me in another episode of The Paint Show. And today we're finally looking at Perylene Green by Schmincke. I've been asked to review this color, this paint, for a long time. Perylene Green is a beautiful, beautiful gray green. I sadly haven't gotten the chance to use it too much up until this point. I did use it, I believe, in one painting I did, and in one demo I did for YouTube when I reviewed Schmincke's new paints. But that's it. This tube is still full. So what's gonna happen today is that I will be testing this out for the first time as well, kind of playing around with it more seriously, I guess. Now, one thing I would say about this one is that it has an incredible range of values, meaning it can be really, really light or very, very dark. So this is a good characteristic for a paint that can be used for. It's a good characteristic for if you want to do monochromatic work or exercises with this one, for example, because you can achieve just a large range of values from light to dark, so you can create a full painting just with this one. And I think that's a huge advantage for a paint like this, and especially because it is kind of gray, so it is similar to, it's actually using a black pigment. So it is really good for just exercises and stuff like this, because it is similar to black. So I would really recommend this one if you're just looking for a good strong color for doing exercises of this kind. It is pretty opaque, so that's one thing to take into consideration, but we're going to look at everything in just a moment. We're going to open the Schmincke brochure and take a look at this, okay? So let's do this now. So I just thought I'd give you a good look at the tube. Sometimes I don't remember to do that, and you have, of course, all of the information here. The Schmincke Horadam is the watercolor line. We've got the number of the brochure in the brochure, series 2, Lightfastness, the name, the pigments, everything is on the tube. 5 milliliter, a small tube. So in the Schmincke brochure, let's first read the description. So here it is: Perylene Green, extremely dark black green, ideal shadow color, especially for landscape painting. This is Pigment Black 31. It's actually black. This is Paliogen Green, Paliogen, black. Which is black with a very strong dark green tint to it. Okay, I actually checked online and looked at some example. It's a beautiful green. So this is a series 2, a little more pricey. The Lightfastness is 4 out of 5 stars. It is opaque, as you can see here by the full square, and it is semi-staining. Okay, it's one of their newer pigments. Okay, not necessarily that new now, but one of their newer ones. So I think what I'll do next is show you what this paint looks like on the palette, and then we can move over to the demo. So let me first show you what this color looks like on the palette. And I only used it, I believe, once again, as I mentioned. So let's do this. And you can see a beautiful, beautiful gray green. So this is kind of what you get. Very gray, once again. It looks really, really gray. So what I'm going to do now is start with just playing around with this one. Let's do a quick swatch and see what this one looks like. And I'm going to start very light, okay? I want you to see it in a very pale version. And then as I go along, I'll just start adding a bit more pigment to the mix I have on the palette. This is the Canson Montval, as you can probably recognize. A very good sketchbook, as long as you do some modifications to your work, you don't do too many glazes, and you kind of try and get things in one go. It's actually good practice, because getting things in one go is a better way of doing things. So again, the highlight of this green is that it can go really, really dark. It's one of the uses that it has, and actually this is great if you're gonna do monochromatic painting exercises, which I'm actually gonna do right after finishing recording this episode, because it's so good. It has such a huge variation in value, and also it allows you to just work with that and only one color. That's all you need. So let's do some wet and wet here. I'm curious to see if there's going to be anything interesting in that sense, meaning if we'll get to see some weird, I don't know, weird dispersion of the pigment or something like this. It's always interesting to see how that works when you actually have the time to do these kinds of fun little experiments. So I'm just making sure it's not too wet. I'm drying the brush on a towel and picking up some of the paint. And let's start dabbing it in there. So first off, very wet dabs of paint. Almost got a smiley there, like a winking smiley. I don't know if you can see this, or maybe it's just me. But in any case, I'm gonna add a bit more pigment here. And all I'm doing is just using this little spot I did and pulling out of that a bit more, and then I'm adding it here. Okay, just in case you're not used to working with tubes, this is an extra tip for you. You just put a small dab of paint and you just add as much as you need, and you don't waste too much paint that way. So I'm just dabbing away here. It looks like there are small blossoms or hairs or something like this. Nothing too, I would say, special, but I actually like this because it makes this just a good color to use for just for simple, I guess, applications. Again, monochromatic studies, that's the one thing I'm gonna use that one for sure. So we're gonna let this dry a bit, and in the meantime, I'm gonna do some dry brush as it dries. So it's always fun seeing the paper's texture. I always enjoy doing that. Let's take a really dark batch here, so you can see this is what it looks like. Next up, I'm gonna try some mixes, and I'm really curious about what I should mix this one with. I think we're gonna start with a warm red, something like a very warm red, like a cadmium red or something like this, just to see, because I believe they should really neutralize each other. So I'm just gonna grab some red like this here, very fiery, and I'm just gonna slowly add a bit of, I'm gonna show you this as well. So I'm gonna just add a bit of this into this batch, okay, so that we can see. So this is kind of a weak mixture. So you can see it neutralizes them, kind of, they definitely don't complement each other yet. So I'm adding a bit more of these, and you get this transition. I think it could be interesting to try mixing it with something like a phthalo green, just to see what happens. I really, this is just me really playing around with it, because it's the first time I really try and meddle with this paint as well. Let me zoom in just a bit so you can better see. So next up, we will try doing it with phthalo green. So I'm just grabbing a bit of pure phthalo green here. And as I go along, I'm going to add a bit more and more of this green to it. And we'll see what happens. Maybe it'll darken it up a bit. So it kind of darkens it up. Let's add a bit more of the phthalo. Let's add a bit more of the two of them, like a really dark version of them both. So you can see that these are both can achieve a great range of values together. So on their own, so together for sure they can. I think we can try, if that's, maybe let's try with a French ultramarine or ultramarine blue, and let's see what we get. So just a bit of the Perylene Green. I'm just gonna add to that a bit of soft French ultramarine. This is really, it's a color that makes me wonder whether I'll have a use for it in its own, meaning as a part of a painting, or just in its own right, like I'm considering, you know, because I don't really know what to use it for. I'll have to do some more research online. If you have ideas, of course, let me know in the comments. But this is actually a really nice combination, I have to say, for shading, or even for shading trees, I guess, maybe in the distance. This is very interesting. So now, because it's a green, let's try and break it down and mix it with yellow, and let's see what we get. Really a mystery to me. So a bit of the green, and maybe let's try lemon yellow. I'm gonna just get some of that. Gonna clean up the top because it's a bit contaminated, and just gonna add some lemon yellow to it. I think I may have used this combination once when I tried this paint out, this could actually work really well for foliage, you know? Just thinking about it, could be like the Perylene Green could be kind of a convenience mixture to get a very dark foliage color. And then with the yellow, it can create some very interesting highlights. That's really interesting. You know what? I haven't thought about it, and it's also a more natural green because it's not too vibrant, you know, like the phthalo green that isn't really similar to anything you'll find in nature. So I don't know, you know what? That's an interesting one. Let's try from the other end, mix it with a warmer yellow, like chromium yellow, something like this. Let's see what we get here. Maybe, I don't know if this will neutralize more, or we'll have to test it out. So a bit of that yellow in here. So it's a very different result. I think when it comes to this particular yellow, this one works better for me. Even though lemon yellow isn't my favorite. It's very interesting. I'm gonna try just to put a bit of yellow ochre next to it as well. See what we get in terms of the harmony, or you know, or lack of harmony. So all of these are interesting. That's an interesting combination. I wasn't sure if I'm gonna like it, but I do find it very interesting. Let me zoom out so we can see everything now. Okay, so one result of that green is definitely that it kind of mutes the hell out of all of the rest of the colors. But a very interesting one, and I wasn't sure what to expect, but I think these, it will come in handy. I just want to show you the dispersion in paint. It actually moves quite a lot in water, sorry, it actually moves quite a lot. And again, very gray, as you can see also here. If you would see this without context, meaning without other colors, you would think it's gray, but then when I introduce the red, you get to see that this is in fact a green gray. So very interesting one. This is something I'll have to explore more, all of these combinations. Very interesting. I'll try out these and I'll let you know what I think about it. But in any case, I think this will be it for this episode. I really hope you enjoyed it. Let's change the angle and wrap it up. So this is it. Thank you so much for watching this episode of The Paint Show. I hope you enjoyed this one. I'm really happy and pleased with where this show is headed. I think we're building a nice stock of paints, and actually I had a funny experience. A few days ago I was looking for information on a paint that I didn't even remember I reviewed in The Paint Show, and the second result was The Paint Show. So I was like, yes, success on Google. So that's really nice. So anyway, this is it. I hope you enjoyed this one. I will put links in the description box if you want to purchase this paint. You can do that using my links. These are affiliate links to Amazon, meaning you pay the same price, I get a small commission, which is a nice side income for me. And this is it. Thank you so much. I will put also links in the description box to my podcast and my Instagram page if you want to see works in progress, and my Snapchat if you want to get some more updates. And my Patreon. That's the best way to support me if you want to. And this is it. I will see you again in another episode of The Paint Show and in another vid real soon.